guys, welcome back to the Kind of an Expert podcast, the only podcast where the guest picks the topic of every single episode. My name is Corey Tyndall, and as always, I am your host. And this week, I sat down with writer-director Matt Ott to talk about the writers and actors strike. Matt is not a writer in the WGA, nor is he an actor, but he is a director who's made more than a few and worked on more than a few big movies and TV shows and projects, and he's got a lot of real insights into what the strikers are asking for, but also what the studios are asking for, the situation that the studios are currently in financially, and where he thinks this might end up. So I thought this episode was incredibly interesting. I know I'm kind of tangentially next to it. I know a lot of writers, but even still, I think it was super helpful to have the perspective of someone who's kind of been in it and is in the Directors Guild that can talk about why they accepted their deal where the writers and the actors are striking. You can follow him at the Matt Ott on Instagram. Go check it out. He's got a couple of his projects that are linked to his Instagram. He's also got a new film coming out called Scratch with former guest Carmen Lagala as the lead actress. So definitely check that out when it comes out this winter. And as always, follow me at Corey T Comedy on all social media. And if you're in New York City, come to a comedy show every single week at Ferns in the East Village. With that, let's get into the episode. There's two things that suck while you're podcasting. Someone that you're talking to smells, and it's too hot. Those are the two, and they go together. When they go together, that is brutal.
Who has been your smelliest guest?
Oh, I can't say his name because
he's a good friend.
He's a good friend. Yeah, it is a.
Okay.
It's it comes and goes in waves. Sometimes he's very smelly. Sometimes he's not.
He's a comedian.
Of course.
Has he been to one of my barbecues?
No.
Could I guess him?
No.
Okay, all right.
He hasn't, unless maybe he knows you from another avenue, but I don't think he does.
I can just start naming people I think it might be.
I don't think you're gonna get it, but
how close does he talk to your face when he's talking to you?
It's close enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I have some ideas.
Okay. I don't think you know him. I'd be shocked if you knew him. But yeah, well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. So you are writer director, former producer,
assistant director,
okay,
line producer. I learned how to do everything so I could tell people that they're wrong.
Sure.
When they do things wrong.
Love that.
On my set.
That's why I got into comedy. So I was originally in school to potentially be a therapist, and I was like, well, I don't want to help people. I just want to tell them what to do.
Okay.
And I was like you get into comedy, you're like, this is how life should be. And then they're like, oh, okay, sure. And that's how Joe Rogan is born. But so you're doing everything
there. Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
You have to. You kind of have to know how everything goes. And I've worked with a lot of directors who have no experience with. They never were a production assistant. They never were.
Oh.
They just don't know what they're doing.
Dude.
And it's just trying to figure out why things aren't happening the way that they want. It's like, well, because you don't know how to communicate.
Across industries, that is universal.
Yeah.
Like, even in mine, working in tech, we get a lot of people that master's degree, or, they were a consultant for like 10 years, and all they do is like go in. They don't really have to listen to anyone. They just kind of make a bunch of slideshows, and then they're like, here you go. And then they join a tech company. They have no idea how to manage people. They have no idea how to manage. So that would be like up or down. They know how to do a project, but no part of the big picture is in their
like
understanding.
Elon Musk or some shit.
It's brutal, man. It's so bad. Yeah, Elon Musk. That's a good example. I mean, he seems to have figured out how to motivate people to do stuff that he wants aside from Twitter, but like SpaceX is pretty cool. Tesla's a good company.
Yeah. I mean, you throw enough money at random shit, you're gonna get one.
That's
one
true.
Or two nice things.
That is a good point. Yeah, if I started out with PayPal, I think I'd be doing okay over here.
Yeah. You could own the club.
Yes.
And,
I know. I need to be the David Zaslav of comedy.
Yeah. God.
So we're talking about
that's been going well.
the writer actor strike. You're not in it necessarily. Are you part of the Writers Guild?
No, but at risk of never being able to join, you still have to follow all of their rules.
Sure.
Same with if the directors were striking, it's the same thing, and then also with actors, if you choose to do that with your life for some reason, I would suggest following the rules. Yeah, I think it's obviously good to cut out all the scabs that could pop up, but unfortunately unlike the last strike, which was like 15 years ago, it was very much like, okay, everybody go out and make your own stuff. This time they're very much trying to control people from even making their own stuff, or at least they were to start, which was a little confusing.
Okay.
So it seems maybe as if they've laid off of that a little bit, but it's just confusing times, like especially with the actors. Like all of these new rules are coming in, and we're trying to navigate that, and who gets these waivers to like go make a film, or like what constitutes a smaller project that you can just go do yourself with whatever actor you find at a picket line that's bored.
Okay.
So Susan Sarandon, most likely. It seems I see her every time I go to a picket line. She's pictured with my friends at picket line.
That's awesome.
Good for her. She's nonstop.
I have like all of the big names going out there and picketing. I'm like, oh shit, they're serious. Like Matt Damon's out there right now. This is not. If they're not fucking around when Matt Damon is out on the picket line.
No, not at all. And it's actually like, go to picket lines. It's fun.
Yeah.
You get to shout.
Great.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You get to wave a sign around, and you get to play my favorite game of who is this person that I only see with hair and makeup on that I can no longer recognize.
Oh, that's awesome. I never would have thought it. Comedians notoriously not a lot of like effort put into their look. And
I recognized David Cross right away, but She-Hulk, whatever, Tatiana, I was like, we did like 4 laps behind her. I was like, who the fuck is this lady?
Wow. Okay. I didn't see She-Hulk. I saw, what was that show she did before? It was like a Canadian spy show.
Somebody said it was really good, and she's really good. She's great
good
in She-Hulk.
Anyway, so the writers and actors are striking.
Well, the directors can't do shit too. So it's like now everybody's just kind of all IATSE, Teamsters. Like there are commercials, but there's not. We can't do much else.
I was talking with another guy who directs commercials, and he was like, I can kind of still do stuff, I guess. Why? Let's start with this. Why didn't the directors strike? Because I feel like just from the writers and the actors, like the arguments that they're trying to make going at the studios, and wouldn't those apply with the directors as well? Or have the directors been notoriously like better paid because there's less of you?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to, when you have a $40 million movie coming out, like the comedy, one of the biggest comedies to come out in the past few years, that came out a few weeks ago, and Jennifer Lawrence of that $40 million is making $25 million. Like that's, the director wasn't making that. So I think that there's a lot of ways to cut how much money people are making. I think for bare minimums, which is the most important thing. I believe the directors took like 4 or 5% increase, and the actors are asking for 11 just due to inflation.
Oh wow.
I think historically directors are more connected to the studios than anything else.
Okay.
I can't really speak to that.
Sure.
I shouldn't speak to that.
You're not best friends with the Bugs Bunny.
No. It's difficult because it's just all painted in some, like when they announced what they negotiated, it was like, this is the most historic thing ever. It's like, all right, well, okay. What the fuck does that like? So there's some verbiage on AI type stuff, but it's all about wage increases, and specifically for, I think the most disappointing thing from just talking with people is that the director seemed to have caved on the streaming residuals.
Yeah.
So, and that's really the biggest holdout. They're not willing to talk about it in the slightest.
Yep.
The model has changed drastically over the past how many years? Like even going back to when DVDs, when DVDs were a huge sales thing, they were not getting residuals from DVDs. Like that was negotiated out, and they were given a bump of some sort. So that was what happened initially with streaming, that they were going to get some sort of bump, and like, everyone was happy that this was happening. And now that this is primarily the model, streaming platforms, that doesn't make sense for what we're doing. So
yeah,
especially if it's going straight to streaming. Like if you have, like HBO is now selling licensing their shows to Netflix,
right?
Which is,
and
there's just no provision for that.
No, and nobody, either way, nobody's getting any cut of that. Like for the listeners that don't know, residuals, you think of Seinfeld. Like Seinfeld got a ton of money because every time they replayed an episode of Seinfeld on TV, he got a cut. But with streaming, that doesn't happen. It's a one-time, like, you did this project, here's your money. Now, like, we kind of own this for the rest of time. And it doesn't matter if it blew up on Netflix 4 years later. Like, you're not getting any part of that.
No, it's they want to hide their numbers, which makes sense. They want to claim that creating a digital streaming platform is a loss, which is bullshit. There's no way that it's a loss. If it was a loss, they wouldn't be doing it. And the best way to save money is to have a loss. So like to claim some sort of loss, to claim that they're not making money off of this, that is the easiest way to make it some sort of, like, there's a million ways to cut it for this is clearly profitable or they wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
And it has to be a loss because then they can
write
it off on taxes or whatever.
Right. The old Uber model, where it's just like, oh no, we are intentionally driving up costs so that we can cut it. I do feel like, I mean, Netflix cutting back on the password sharing, that didn't go very well for them. I don't know. I need to check the revenue numbers. I don't think they've done.
It came out like yesterday.
Did it?
It was very good. They're fine.
They're making more because of it.
And they also cut out the lowest tier of the advertising model.
Huh. Okay. I mean, yeah. They're
fine.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, because Disney claims Disney Plus is losing a ton of money. I just don't understand it because Disney Plus had the IP already. Like, they are making new money, or they are making new shows, new movies, all this other stuff, but like a lot of the stuff that was on Disney Plus was already created. All they needed to do was just put it on the servers and then do that, which, like, server space isn't inexpensive, but also,
well, there's a timeline. There's a shelf life on that, because if you have a 4-year-old kid that's going to watch Frozen 50 times a day over and over again, eventually that kid's 6 and is moving on to some other shit. So
it's true.
There's, where, Paramount Plus's problem might be that their shows are shit and 60-year-old people plus are dying. Like, Disney has the same issue of people are being aged out of this content. Or they just need to keep making, regurgitated Marvel shit, which I used to love, and I'm kind of like,
it's gotten so much worse.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah,
like it was always formulaic, but I think before we understood the formula, it was a good formula. And now we understand the formula, and we're like, all right, cool. It's like having anything, the same bowl of cereal every day for breakfast, and you're like, after a month, you're like, yeah, let's get something new in here. I'm tired of this.
It's they have every opportunity to make it different, and they just don't know how.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do like one of the things that the actors asked for that the studio shot down that I actually think would kind of make sense with the AI portion of this, because the big thing for listeners that one of the big things the actors are worried about, and the writers, is that AI is going to be used to replicate people, to replicate styles of writing, like not necessarily for a show like White Lotus or Succession, where it's incredibly original, but like a show like Blue Bloods, where it's the same formula every time, or Marvel, it's the same formula every time. AI could write a C- version of it, and then you just have one person do touch up. The one of the solutions I think would be with the actors being mad that, hey, they want to copy our faces, the background actors, and just use them for the rest of our lives, would be to pay people in stock of the company. And so that way, you're not just paid once, you're paid over and over again with the value of the company. If your movie or something that you were a part of makes a ton of money, then you're getting a piece of that. No? Like, I guess what would be the argument against that?
Well, you can devalue shares. You can do a whole bunch of shit to make it so like this segment of people, like the smallest segment, have less. Like you can, there's enough ways to fuck over people in any sense. But also like these are not people that it's like, okay, you go do that, and then what? You're a janitor. Like what the fuck is like? Okay, like okay, cool. So we got your face.
No,
and
waiter.
Like,
you're a waiter. That's what
exactly.
they do. That's what most of them are doing anyway. So
well,
it's like
right. So it's an opportunity for a lot of those people to be seen, or it's fun. It's like I know a lot of background people that really just enjoy it. It's a fun atmosphere to be around and to be on somebody's some Mickey Mouse branded fucking hard drive.
Yeah,
sounds like what's the point then? Like we could literally do it to anybody, and why would we not just do it to any random person then? Like nobody's like, oh, that guy's specifically a background person. Like it could just be easily computer generated people. Like there's no reason for it. I think they're just what they really want to do is just eliminate one line item in every single budget. You have a budget, extras are in your budget. If you already have that allocated, like, all right, fine, you're cutting costs. They do need to cut costs. That said, they, need to cut costs all around. Tom Cruise probably doesn't need to be making all the money that he does. Bob Iger doesn't need to be making all the money that he does. So there's like a bunch of places to cut, and it, like, figure it the fuck out. It's a business, but still, people have to be able to live. I think there's a lot of people talk about the if you have 12 episodes of a series or something like that, the WGA wants to force them to hire 12 writers,
right?
Which I can understand, but then also you talk to different show creators and showrunners, and that's not conducive to their creative style. So it really needs to be a case by case basis, and it's all difficult. Like I think. Yeah. So many of these showrunners too are WGA members, and they have to stand up for their people. So, the issue with doing it on a case by case basis is that's when the company says, "Well, it seems like every case we don't need any people because we've got these new tools or whatever." And like the business argument for it is saying like people that work at the Ford factory don't go on strike every time there's a new piece of technology that does more work on the assembly line. And there's the old thing where it's like, no, technology actually creates more jobs than it does, and the jobs just change, which is tough. I mean, that's where that whole like learn to code thing, like truckers should learn to code, which has been the most ridiculous thing ever. I took a coding class in college. This shit's fucking hard. Like I'm good at math. I cannot code. I can't figure it out. I mean, I don't know if you've driven around here, but most truckers should learn to drive.
That's true.
It's like a fucking it's a mess.
It's one of the sticking points.
Perfect one thing.
Yeah. The actors not as much as the writers are saying this, but the writers, one of their big sticking points is like, we got 12,000 people. The pay raises we're asking for are less than what the CEO is making by himself, which it's got a couple holes in it because one, the CEO doesn't really make a big salary in cash. They get paid in stock options. So it's value they take credit out on, not actual cash. But then the actors kind of tried it, but people have kind of realized, like, Robert Downey Jr. makes exactly as much money as Bob Iger, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of an ask of like, who brings more value to Disney? Does Robert Downey Jr. bring more value, or does Bob Iger bring more value? And That feels to me more like a societal question. Like,
Right.
personally do not think a CEO matters too much. I think they could do some really big things that fuck it up, like the last Bob, who was there
Right.
for like 6 weeks and
Yeah.
totally shit the bed. Like, sure. But then it went back to normal immediately as soon as they got him out of it. So it was like, okay, was that actually that bad? Like, fire the dude who sucks and it'll go back to normal.
It's all perception. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the most important thing that people can really take away from, especially if they're not in the guilds, or if they aren't, this is an opportunity to make shit, and like they should have been, creating shit before this, but
Like shit on their
now
own.
more than
Yeah.
like that's like for 90% of the people, and like a lot of the people that are in writing rooms too, it's difficult work that often you need a second job or something like that. But like going out there and actually making stuff with friends, you have an opportunity to then be in control and level up and do the shit that you want to do.
Yeah.
Eventually, like it's very, very hard to start out in a writing room and be a assistant, and then become a writer, and then get your episodes out, and then just this rolling steam, and like then you have to be on set for to help out in creating the episode, like in that downtime. And now that we have downtime, just go make shit.
Yeah.
Like that's I don't see enough people doing that, and
It's-
hopefully just
okay.
people just go fucking do that.
Give it 2 weeks, they'll all try stand-up comedy.
Sure.
That's what I've been saying.
Susan
But
Sarandon, I can't wait.
oh, they're all going to do it because they're going to be like, oh, I need attention. Where do I
Yeah,
go?
yeah.
And like it kind of happened during the pandemic where they were like, oh, I'll do an outside thing. But now that clubs are open, like they're all going to give it a shot. I guarantee you're going to
I'm
be
excited.
seeing Robert Downey Jr. trying to do stand-up comedy in the next month and a half. I'm with you. And I've talked about it with other comics, because stand-up comics are kind of freaked out, and I don't think it's a big issue for us. And I am open to you saying that I'm dead wrong on this, but my thinking is, one, people don't like stand-up comics for the jokes. They like stand-up comics for the stand-up comics. Like the joke helps, but like when you're watching someone, you're listening to someone, when you're a real fan of them, you're a real fan of them. Like it doesn't matter if a computer can write a joke in the style of Sarah Silverman. The other part is we are very solo, like what you're saying. Like AI being able to do all this stuff is helpful to someone who's trying to start their own business, because it's like, oh, it can auto edit this podcast for me.
Yeah.
I don't have to spend an hour doing this. I could just like click, bam, like social posts, it flip camera between the mics, like all this other stuff. I'm like, that saves me a ton of time. Now I can go do other stuff that I actually want to do. But like for those, you're right, for those ones that sit in the office and they write and they really only do one thing, the specialists, they're the ones that are in trouble.
Not if they're good.
Sure, if they're great, they'll like Mike White Lotus guy.
Yeah.
Will always be hired.
Yeah, but if you want to, and this is not I know people that make these types of movies, but like if we're gonna edit this out, but I'm just gonna say
What's
it.
the timestamp? 22 minutes. All right. Good to know.
I'm gonna say it for context. Like
Yeah.
just knowing people that create Hallmark movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just fucking throw an idea. It's like
Yeah.
It's like
It's
the
formulaic.
It's formulaic. It's like Family Guy, like how they make fun of Family Guy in South Park, where it's just the manatees putting the balls together, and
Yep.
that's how they write it.
It's brilliant.
You could have that, like a computer could do that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's all of whatever Seth MacFarlane's shit. Like awesome.
I think that's all of
I
network
think he's
TV.
just AI. Like
Really.
he just regurgitates shit.
Yeah.
Plug in random shit, and
Right.
like okay, cool.
Oh, what about American Dad, where the dad is slightly different, but every other character
Yeah.
is the exact same as Family Guy? Yeah, I think that's kind of what network TV, I don't even want to say like devolved into, because I don't think network TV was ever not really formulaic. Like even those old, an old talk show, Johnny Carson, like it was the same thing every time.
Oh, yeah.
Cable's kind of where like the artsy weird stuff came into TV, and obviously movies got bigger with like DVD and VHS where you could get those. You could take a swing on it because it might go. It might be like an underground hit or something like that.
Well, I mean, television used to mostly be serial. Like you could tune in at any time. It was mindless. You could just there was nothing special happening besides the special episodes about, I don't know, fucking drugs or
Christmas.
Or something. Sure. Yeah, that too. Or lighter things like Christmas and Halloween. So, but as television became more, episodic, it changed things. So that's where procedural stuff, like whatever, like the people watch Love is Blind. People are really stupid. So there's not there needs to be content for those people. And let the people who want to do that finesse the fucking, create it themselves. AI shouldn't be in, and it's important to, there will be ways to have people finesse it. I think creatively it can be helpful in the sense that it's an aid to me, and all right, write this email about this fucking thing, and set up this little code that's going to blast it out to 200 people, so I don't have to think about it today.
Right.
And then I can write.
Right.
Then I can go make something.
You're thinking about it in the same way that I was. It's as an individual, it's like I have little helpers that I don't need to pay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I do feel for them though. Well, all right. I kind of waffle on both sides of this, right? Because on the one hand, if you just let the studios win or whatever, they're
not going to win. I think at this point it's impossible
that the studios win.
I think it is not fathomable that they will be able to just drive all of this in. It's already it's already past the time. The strike is happening. That was the thing that they were trying to avoid. They are baffled that the strike is happening.
Really?
The way that the last conversations happened were not good. They did not think that this would be triggered. They thought that they could put people in a corner. They have enough. They have the right. They're paying, in their mind, the right people the right amount of money.
Yeah.
But then you have people like Matt Damon coming out, and you have these huge stars coming out and saying, no, fuck you. This is about the smaller people. If you think you have all of those people in your corner and you think you have all the power, it's gotta suck to realize that they don't, and they're fucked.
Yeah, I mean it's almost more of a general societal question at this point, and you kind of see that with the Teamsters that are probably about to go on strike. So if you're gonna order something on Amazon, fucking do it now. Yeah. But it's kind of a question of, on the one hand, yes, the studios could make more without paying nearly as many people because of this new technology that's going to help them or whatever. And there's going to be, for the consumer, there's going to be more movies. There's going to be more TV. It's going to mostly be crap, but
it's already
it
crap.
Will be there. And there will be more crap. And they'll make a lot of more money off of it with the technology. But then the question is is that the world that we want to live in? Do we all want to live in the world where it's the robots are making these TV shows, and these people would have been actors and they would have had this fulfilling life and they would have had been able to do this fun art form, but it's the businesses needed the technology. It's kind of, where do you draw the line of what sort of world do we want to live in this country?
Well, I think it's fairly easy to draw when we're heading into a weekend with Oppenheimer and Barbie. I've seen Oppenheimer at a Universal event thing, and
premiere for the fancy man.
Yeah, I didn't see anyone fall asleep in front of me that I'm willing to talk about.
Allegedly,
but we're going into this weekend because Christopher Nolan is important, not because anybody gives a fuck about Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Or Cillian Murphy, who's been in millions of movies and is amazing, and this is his biggest thing.
Yeah.
So we give a shit about this because of Nolan. We
Yeah.
give a shit about Avatar because of James Cameron.
Yep.
So if you take that face away, and granted these are directors, like if you take that humanity out of it, like yeah, you're stripping all of that. So go ahead, run wild on AI shit. That's fine.
Yeah.
But Netflix isn't making these tentpole type things. They don't have the capacity to do it because they don't have like they're structurally unsound. They don't have the backbone of like these. I mean, Scorsese made a way
He made
too
The
long,
Irishman, yeah.
trash film.
Like, oh man, saying that
bad.
in New York might get you shot. You can't.
Somebody
you
needs to
can't shit
cut
on
that into like
Scorsese.
6 30-minute episodes.
I know.
And see if that makes it tolerable.
I
didn't
wager
watch
it
probably
because people were
isn't.
like, "Eh,
It's terrible.
it's so long," and it's like. But you know what? If it was a miniseries, I probably would have watched it. I love a miniseries, but anyway,
honestly,
that's part of the thing the writers are mad about is things are moving to miniseries. They
If
don't
that
get
was
paid as
made
much.
by a company that cared about making good things,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't have been just another Netflix piece of shit.
That is a very good point, and it's something that I've noticed with the shows that are on Netflix, that are on Amazon Prime, and the shows that are especially on Apple TV. With Apple TV specifically, there was the Ted Lasso controversy where the writers only wrote 8 episodes, and then Apple was like,
Were those
"You
the
need
good ones?
10."
The only first
you need
season?
10, and so. Well, this was in the second season. In the second season, which was not nearly as good as the first season, but it was still
I watched
fine.
it. Yeah, and
the
that
third
was
season
like,
fucking
I didn't
sucks.
watch the third season.
It's bad. I stopped in the middle.
imagine.
I was like, this is awful. And it's not even, people are like, oh, it's evil Nate. I'm like, no, I don't even care about that. It's the writing is lazy. It has gotten formulaic. But anyway, Apple was like, no, you need 10 episodes because we want 10 episodes out of this. We could get more runway. We're talking about it for longer. And so they shoehorned in the Christmas episode and then one other thing, which weren't canon. They were just kind of out there. They didn't really do anything. They weren't very
Was
good.
it the one with like him running around the town or whatever?
I think so. It was pointless. They were pointless episodes. They just wanted to go along. And then the new show that's out, Silo, is the most... It could have been great. I've heard the book is great. It's a sci-fi, like sort of dystopian thriller, mystery sort of thing. Like people are dying. There's a weird mystery with the silo. It's lazy.
Yeah.
They went through it so fast. All 10,000 people live in the same silo. They live in the exact same silo that's like 90 floors wide. They can't get them to all have the same accent. Like the main actress sometimes goes into a British accent, and I'm like, guys, this is the shit that you would have figured out if you had actually cared. If you didn't like hurry through this, and it's my biggest gripe with anything that's on Apple. Netflix is a little better at it. You got stuff like Squid Game, where I was like, I thought that was
I didn't watch it. But
no.
I heard it was.
I loved it. But you get that kind of stuff where it's like these tech companies are trying to break into it, and to your point, like they don't really know what they're doing. They're purely going for the money.
No, like After Party was very hard to watch on Apple.
Severance was good.
Severance was good. That was their one thing.
That was the one show that I'm like, oh, this has been great. But we'll see what season 2 does. Like Ted Lasso was great season 1, but
I think they really. I think Severance is in a different place, being executive produced by Ben Stiller, and he's
Okay.
like reputable and has
great.
has a great company that I trust that they trust that he'll do a good job. So, I think that is probably the only thing that they have going for them. I mean, it's still, like, comedy overall. Like, FX is the only like real place for comedy right now.
And
Comedy Central
it's gone.
gave up that.
It's on YouTube now. It's all Tosh.0 and South Park, and that's
Dude.
it.
I mean, I love South Park.
Me
South
too.
Park is
Yeah.
still amazing. But that's the only thing left.
Yeah. It's like MTV doing Wild and Out just over and over and over again. And this actually kind of leads me to one of my other questions is, so it is a fact that the revenues for these studios are going down, but they're not it's not because of the movies not being in movie theaters, which like part of it, that's a little bit of it. The biggest issue is that the tech companies are taking a lot of their stuff. Like Netflix has a much better deal for them. Like they get more money out of the movie studios than like the theaters did. So it is more. It costs the studios more. They don't make as much money if the movie goes to Netflix. So that's part of it. Same with Amazon. Same with Apple TV. But then part of it is also a lot of people just aren't watching as many shows and movies anymore because of TikTok, because of YouTube, because of video games. There's so many other places to get entertainment that the studios, to argue from their side, just to be devil's advocate, not that I don't think they're correct, but like they are watching their revenues going down, and then they're also having the actors ask for those to go up, and then they finally find this new technology that's going to help them cut costs, but then the actors are like, no, you can't do that. So they're in this position where they're like, what the fuck do we do? And I don't have an answer for that, but I know the answer is not to stop production, because if new shows don't come out, you know what I'm going to fucking do? Watch TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, you know, there's just a changing dynamic of how we view things, of course, but there's also the fact that we used to have, let's say, 15 shows.
Yeah.
That would go on for 20 some episodes, if not more, in a season. Now we have 1,000 shows that go for, 8 to 12 episodes. So like, you're not retaining those same viewers over and over again as you're releasing this content. If every provider had X amount of shows and they went on for a long period of time, that would be completely and because then you're retaining that viewership. You're not the people that are, these whatever moron is getting Netflix to watch another season of fucking Witcher or some shit like that. Like
I tried the new season. I was just like, oh, dude, the first two were so good, and this one's so bad.
So but whatever that inept-minded human being might be, like that is you're paying your $15 a month, and then you're getting through that content in 3 weeks maybe, and why the fuck do you need that ever again?
Right.
So the model is just shitty. But that's what they decided to do.
Right.
They decided that they're going to dump all these shows at the same time, and like Amazon had some success with doing things, week by week.
HBO always still did it week by week.
Exactly. And they're doing that with their digital stuff as well. Like
right.
The other two, they did that, and that is a way to actually have continued viewership. Like Netflix fucked it all up with this binge model. I
can't do binging anymore.
No,
I don't retain things from the show.
No, it's
I've
not
realized
healthy.
if I watch 10 episodes of something within a week, 3 weeks later someone will ask me what happened. I'll be like, I got major plot points, but I have the details, none of it. It's all gone. I need time to digest it.
I think the only thing that I've truly binged was the second season of The Bear. Just because I didn't want it ruined. We did it in 2 sittings over one night.
So good.
And it was amazing, and I can't wait to actually watch it and enjoy it.
That one I've actually heard was kind of made in a way that you're supposed to binge it, because it's supposed to match the chaoticness of the show. So it's just
so well done. It's amazing.
Here you go, shotgun blast. But
that show, that is one of my favorite shows. There's this article about one of the writers not being able to afford a tux to go to the award show where it was nominated for. So it's that's a fucking problem.
Yeah, that is a good.
Hulu's
I haven't
mess,
seen that article.
It seems so. Which they're now talking about, Iger's possibly talking about selling Hulu, whatever that means.
Oh yeah, he's talking about selling ESPN and Hulu. They're trying to cut costs, and I think a big issue is that Netflix came in, and forever they didn't give any numbers to anyone, but it looked like they were just incredibly profitable, printing money, making new stuff, all this stuff. But it turns out it was kind of a sham, and it's not as profitable. To your point, it can be profitable. They can do it. But in the last, like, because like Disney bought 20th Century Fox for like 50 or like $20 billion or something like that, $50 billion. They have so much debt, and now like investors are starting to look at it if we want to get into the real financial weeds. And so like I do understand where the business is coming from, like, hey, we've got these issues. The only thing I think is that they have to raise prices, right? Like, wouldn't that fix this? Put it back on the consumer. Like, okay, if you want the writers to be paid more, then like Netflix is now $20 a month instead of $15.
Well, then they
like,
better start making.
Work?
Yeah, that would work if they had good content to keep people around for $20 a month. But they don't. True. They're not doing that.
No, I wouldn't for Netflix. I would do it for HBO.
Right.
And
exactly.
I would do it for
HBO,
like FX.
As of the past 6 months. But maybe not HBO going forward. Who knows what they're going to get themselves into? They're deleting content. They're selling off content. What is keeping me there? Like,
yeah,
it's, you know, like Netflix. There's no point, like, to see like one comedy special,
and it's the bad ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Netflix.
Shen Wang's is the best one that's been on there for.
I have not seen it. You're telling me I have to watch that one? Okay.
That's.
I have a coworker that actually just saw him live and was like, not good. And I was like, I don't trust your taste in comedy at all. So that probably means I should check him out.
It's a great special. Yeah, and you know, even if you're not making millions of dollars for your comedy specials, then you're seemingly making no dollars, which is unfortunate. It's
yeah. Well, yeah. Nobody makes money in comedy, but nobody's ever
on your website.
Nobody's ever made money in comedy. The only way to make money in comedy is to have a podcast. That's the only one. It's so difficult. I promise I'm making no money off of this podcast. But like, if you want to be in comedy, you either have to go into acting or podcasting or something, and it's so hard to do. But it's a weird point where I think you're right. People are just kind of looking around and going like, none of these economics work for anybody. Like, how is everyone mad at what's happening? The only people that aren't mad, which Netflix kind of made the first step to doing this, are the consumers, where it's like, oh, I can pay $100 a month for every streaming service and get every show and movie that's ever been made ever. That is the best. Cable packages are $200 a month.
Yeah.
But now you're telling me I get everything for $100? Like, that's an incredible deal for the consumer. And I'm just like, man, I don't see that lasting very long. And then you know what happened? Netflix is like, cool, you can't share anymore because we need the money to make more crappy Chappelle specials.
Well, they're not giving you what you want. They're giving you what they're offering.
The algorithm says I want.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
the algorithm's wrong. I don't want any of that shit.
But at the end of the day, even going back to like a car, factory or some shit like that, like, you get to make the car if you can pay for the nuts and fucking bolts, and if you can't pay for the writers and the actors and directors and the rest of the crew, you don't get the content. And if you can't have the content, good luck charging people more than $5 a month for your shitty content. Go make more Love is Blind. Like, seriously, if Netflix wants to be that company, get out of the AMPTP, go make your fucking garbage, like, and move on.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Mark Ruffalo was tweeting a couple days ago.
He loves doing that shit.
Yeah. He's a big tweeter.
Can't stop.
Did you see the one that I'm about to talk about where he was talking about potentially creating like another studio where the writers and actors and directors would all get shares, like what I was saying, where like it's run by the writers, it's run by the actors, they all not necessarily have an equal part. Like, I don't think he would ever be like, Brad Pitt should make as much money as Corey, who did a fucking commercial, but like something where creating another studio to be competitive with that. Did you see that tweet?
That sounds like a fun antitrust, or some sort of like Okay. Go
Do you
ahead,
think it
but
could ever work?
No,
is
fuck
the
no.
question.
No.
That's because that's the feeling
It's just
I
gonna
got.
go
But I
back
was
to-
like, well, I'm not in it.
No,
so
absolutely not. It would just go back to the old like studio systems, and that you can't. No, where like one person works for one studio and you just pump out content. Like
yeah,
that's the shitty deals that Amazon and them are trying to get out of with firing, the Wire creator and Fleabag, like that type of
Yeah.
shit. So it's like there's already that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think the best thing that he said was that bigger stars just need to get into more indie filmmaking. Because that's where there's
interesting.
more control.
Sure.
That's where if you can do everything yourself, you can set the price for your film. You can create some sort of like bidding thing.
Yeah.
It's more difficult because you don't have the assets to be able to pay the crew necessarily full rates and stuff like that. Like they're still getting like living wages, but it's not.
yeah.
It's hard to have unions and bigger unions involved in that without having bigger budgets.
So the issue, because this is the second time you brought up the like, no, we needed to be doing more stuff by ourselves, and the pushback I would have on this, I don't think you're wrong. I agree with you. I think more people do need to be doing this, but I have seen it in stand-up where when you do have where it's very individualistic, you have a lot of situations where the only people that can succeed are the nepo babies of incredibly rich people, because
You're talking about the show Hacks. I'm joking.
I love that show. I don't know
So
any.
bad. But G
You
Smart
don't
is
you
great.
don't like that? Okay.
Yeah.
I more mean like there's comedy clubs the biggest musicians, the biggest stand-ups. You've got your ones. Dave Chappelle didn't grow up rich. The true geniuses are going to figure out their way through. But when you look at the people that are just kind of making it in comedy now, they're the ones whose parents are paying their rent and they're telling them, no, you go live your dream, like we'll take care of all this stuff. And it's rare that I have a day job and still do as much comedy as I do, because a lot of people, it just doesn't work for most people. I'm very lucky that like my family hasn't had a super tragic incident and I've had to go home, like that sort of thing. And so that's a little bit what I'm worried about with this with the super individualistic mentality, is you might lose those people that might have figured out their way through the system that are very good, but without the system they wouldn't have been able to make what they were going to make.
Well, I think if you're just going out there and making stuff, like whatever you're doing, grabbing camera and writing something and going out and doing it with friends, yeah, like the people who have the money are going to be able to make a nicer, more polished thing.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be good. So like, I think the comforting thing is that I would imagine for every stand-up comedian whose parents are footing the bill for everything, there are probably, 3 to 4 times that of the comedians that's actually happening to, but it's a bad investment by the parent, and we can at least enjoy that fact.
Well,
like,
yeah.
For every money well spent, there's money not well spent. So the number on the other side has to be way fucking higher.
Higher. Yes.
There's always
for
going to
sure.
be that. So the only thing that is possible for
I won't succeed, but I'll have the Schadenfreude of knowing that a lot of parents are very disappointed in these people.
It's awesome. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, that's great. You can, and that is very clear. Like, I'm not going to name any names, but
there's a lot of names. I mean, with like music, Taylor Swift, super rich. Ariana Grande, super rich.
What's really fucking cool is
they're not the best, but they do make the most money. That's the problem. That's the problem, because otherwise you get a lot of people like a lot of our friends who are very funny and they have no money. And they're like, fuck, I gotta go bartend, or I can't do this show. I got this other thing. And it's
keeping them funny.
It is key. That is a good point, actually. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like,
They would disagree. They're like, I could be funny without this job.
why
but
did Chris Rock's last special
Yeah.
suck? Because he cannot relate to anyone.
Right.
He has not struggled. His struggle was getting
nobody's
hit
told
in
him
the face.
no. Nobody's told him
Yeah.
something was bad
No.
in the last 35 years, except for Will Smith.
I wish he
And
had
that's the
to
only reason
read-
people watch that special.
Oh, and that was the only funny thing Chris Rock has said
Yeah.
in 20 years.
Right.
Was what he said about Will Smith's wife. And he got hit for it.
Yeah.
And, no. So I think, I think the struggle is the important part. And I think there's always going to be people that get to do things that you or I don't get to do because we have to, I don't know.
I was gonna say, you
Live
saying
in
the struggle is the important part. I think context is key here. You are not some super rich director
No.
that's like doing the. It's
No,
like
no.
you're in the struggle and saying that. I
Yeah.
hate it when actors are like, nope, you just got to struggle for 20, 30 years. It's like, bro, you booked your first movie a year and a half. You didn't struggle.
No.
Like you didn't struggle at all. This is
No.
like Matt Damon talking about the struggle. I was like, what are you, 19 when you made Good Will Hunting? Fuck off. I don't think he said that, but if he has, he can fuck off.
I know nothing about him except that I accidentally shoved him at a party once. But
right.
yeah, no, I think that it's obvious the people that and some people are going to be decent
Yeah.
and have the means, and it's going to be fine, but so many of them will not. So I think you can't really continually do good shit if you're not struggling in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
And eventually, I think struggle just kind of becomes a choice that you have to make. Otherwise, you're not gonna. It's not gonna make sense. You're just gonna. Your audience is just the people that are you, and
Right.
that's fucking boring.
Well, it's
eventually.
the old, like, why do all comedians have airplane bits? And it's like, because it's the only part of their life that other people can relate to.
Yeah.
And that's why it works. And now, like, comedy specifically. Acting, not as much, because they're not writing it. So, an actor can have a great life, but then play someone who's miserable. Comedians
Right.
specifically, you can't, like, it's cool to be rich now, and it's really made the art form suffer. And it's, on the one hand, it sucks that, like, Tom Segura's new special is fucking awful.
Didn't watch it.
I watched 10 minutes. I was like, this sucks. And he's one of my favorites. Like, his old albums on Spotify, I'm like, these are fucking hilarious. He's one of the funniest people alive.
I also think
on
that
the
you
other
can't
hand,
just-
it's a good thing because comedy's eating itself, and that's what comedy always does. There's always someone coming up behind you.
I think it's difficult, especially if you're out there. He has how many podcasts, and he's just out there talking all the time. Like, eventually, no, I don't want to hear what the fuck he has to say.
Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't.
Nobody has that much
Yeah,
to say.
I'm not talking about him specifically, but I think on a long
Anybody.
enough timeline, that's why I don't listen to podcasts
Yeah.
at all. I don't I listen to new stuff, and I barely watch a movie. I think it's just like going and doing stuff, and kind of having a little bubble and going making weird shit. I think is the only way to really get out and be able to make something. I think stand-up is awesome in the sense that comedians get that direct feedback, that immediate feedback constantly.
Not getting it is terrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you imagine if I
Exactly.
spent 2 years on a movie and then everyone fucking hated it?
Yeah.
I would kill myself.
Oh, dude,
I would
we'll
so
see.
much. People are like, "How do you get a? What happens if someone doesn't like the joke?" It's like then I know immediately and I move on.
And then I hop on a train and try something else.
Yeah, I spent 45 seconds on something and they didn't like it. Oh no, what's the bet? I spent 2 years on something and didn't like it. Fuck me, dude.
No, I think that's the important part about just getting reps in any way, shape, or form, and that's
Well, you're a real artist, is what it sounds like.
No, there's no such thing as a real. It's just doing what you can do. So, and that's, I don't need to see a Quentin Tarantino movie ever again.
Oh, okay.
because he's not bringing anything new. He's not like changing. He's not evolving.
Fair.
But like it's the same thing with like I thought Chappelle's last few were fine, but like it's like, but there's nothing new. There's nothing interesting. There's no growth. There's no, you know, and there's overgrowth in the Chris Rock of like, all right, like I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about anymore. So yeah. Just staying true, you know?
Okay. I like that. I like that. We got 8 minutes left. Where do you think these strikes end? Like, how long are they going to be going? What do you think is going to happen with the negotiating? Like, I truly have no idea. And I don't know if you have any idea either. I don't know if anyone does. I famously... I've said it a couple times on this podcast at the beginning of the pandemic in like March. My buddy was like, how long do you think this is going to last? I was like, probably May, and then it'll be fine. So I'm so bad at predicting these things, but
I think just from a negotiation standpoint, they're going to look for a way to make it seem like they won a little bit because they're also
the studios are.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have shareholders.
Yeah.
So they have to make it seem like they didn't shit the bed completely, which they have so far. So they need to find like, like they asked for 11% in raise and we gave them 8 or some shit like that. Like, but they're going to have to start sharing the numbers. They're going to have to figure out a way to do that. That is, you know, that actually makes it seem like they're trustworthy. So, when will it end? When they have lost enough money to realize that they could make it very easy and they could just say like, okay, but they're probably not going to do that. They're licking their wounds because they're just children. It's like they're not very they're not serious people.
Thanks, Brian Cox.
It's just they're a mess.
They are. I mean, they are talking like we're just going to wait out the actors and writers, and we'll starve them out. Essentially, is what they're saying. They're kind of treating this like a siege. Do you think it actually ever gets to that point? I feel like actors and writers, there are funds for them, right?
There's funds for them, and also they're not beholden to shareholders. I think at the end of the day, when things start tanking, they're going to have no choice. So it's a game of attrition, but the government can step in and give aid to workers. The government could step in and
give aid to the.
But regardless, if it gets it past the finish line, they've stepped in and bailed out shittier companies. So
like they did with the railroads. They stepped in and the government essentially was like, nah, we're on the side of the railroad companies. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, all they wanted was 2 extra sick days. Jesus Christ. The hypocrisy. I'm sounding like a real liberal this episode.
Well, I mean, those workers didn't have Instagram and Facebook, and they don't have 2 million followers, and they
have it, but they don't have the media savvy. They don't have they don't have the following. Right. You're right. Yeah. This is the wrong. Well, the Teamsters not delivering packages will also be very high visibility because people are going to be like, "What the fuck?"
Sure, of course. But also, Teamsters are very vocal and they have great leadership.
But the actors being able to communicate this, I mean, this could be the start of a lot of unions. Just like, hey man, if they're doing it and it's working, like, let's go for it. This is where teachers,
we should
Starbucks
of
employees
kill the police unions, but but beyond that,
the fire department union can stay.
We'll see.
Think of all the cats that'll be stuck in trees if the firefighters go on strike.
Yeah.
Just so many cats. All right, what am I missing? What did I not ask you about before we wrap up here?
Oh, I don't know. Just
how your day's going.
No, it's like go out, grab a sign, walk in circles,
pick it.
It's fun. Say hello to Susan Sarandon. Don't take fucking pictures of people. It's a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
It's a whole thing. Bring us water. Bring us snacks.
Sure.
Drugs. Whatever. Like, it's a nice time.
Yeah. How many? Okay. Yeah, you know what? Great place to wrap up. I appreciate that. There are like funds and stuff you could donate to to
Yeah.
like, do you know any of those off the top of your head?
No.
All
But
right.
if you go to,
I'll Google one and then put it in the show notes.
there's a WGA strike website and also
Okay.
a SAG strike website.
Okay.
And they have links to all of the picketing information and then all of the, good people donate shit
Great.
thing.
Where can people find you? Where can they go watch your stuff? Because you've got Scratch with Carmen.
That's coming out. We're doing like a festival thing, so that'll come out like at the end of the year.
Okay. I still haven't seen it. I'm very
I'll
excited.
send it to you. At the end or at the beginning of next month, I have Clam Shack Blues coming out with
Okay.
insane, grumpy, loud Boston comedian Lenny Clark.
Okay.
Otherwise it's themattott.com.
Okay. You got stuff on Vimeo, YouTube? Like, that's where they can find it?
Got
Great.
stuff for ASL folks.
Awesome.
If you're reading this podcast.
Great. Yeah. That's what people do. They just turn on, they go to the YouTube, they turn on the subtitles, and they mute it. They can't stand my voice.
Yeah.
But they love the content.
Yeah,
That'd be
exactly.
Wild.
My
All right. Follow me at Corey T Comedy on all social media and come to Ope, a comedy show every single week at Ferns in the East Village of New York City.
I walked by that. It looks nice.
It's a great restaurant. Honest, even if you're not there on a show night, go in there to eat. It's great. You're not a comic, but eventually we'll get you in the audience of the show. You flaked on me
Someday.
one time, so I'm gonna get you. This was great. Thank you for stopping by. We'll do it again the next time
Thank
a
you.
strike happens.
Hell yeah.